सदाफ में शफाफ गहर बिना तकदीर बदलने में तकदीर बदलने में एक पल भी ना लगा होती जब इनायत की एक नजर बिना एक मुश्त पर सही है तो आसमां के बीच ले जाए हवा इतनी हवा से कम है काश इस दुनिया को इसकी खबर होती इस छोटी दुनिया में गम के नगर बिना जिंदा के अंधेरों से जिंदा के अंधेरों से घबरा के ना डरा महफूज फिजाओं में बताओ ज़फ़र बिना इतनी हवा से कम दिल के
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Chai Time with BIX. My name is Annette Phillip, and joining me today are Rohit Jayaraman and Lydia Renauld. Rohit is master of technical wizardry today, and he's handling all of our tech stuff. And Lydia is expert designer, social media, guru actually, and she's going to handle all our Q&A facilitation. So we're so excited for you to be here on Chai Time with Bix. Here's our mugshot for the day.
Yeah.
Well, Chai Time with Bix is something that's very, very, very special and close to our hearts. If you are an artist and if you're someone who feels vulnerable, then this is your home. We feel that it's so important for artists to talk about, what it is that they've gone through and how they've overcome it, and also what they still struggle with. So today, because art is happening while life is happening and we need to figure things out, we have an amazing guest, Clinton Cerejo, who is an amazing composer, producer, multi instrumentalist, vocalist, and all round incredible human being. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together and give a warm welcome with your mugs to Clinton Cerejo. Woohoo!
Hey guys,
Hey,
lovely to be
Clinton.
here.
Yeah. Okay, first off, you got to tell us about your mug.
Well, my mug has my kid's mug on there. This is Noah. One second, I'm just that's Noah
That's Noah.
we were, and that's Eva when they were little. They're no longer little now. This was many years ago in New Zealand, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Nice.
And yeah, they're now 17 and 13, or
Wow.
17 and yeah, 17 and 13. So it's quite yeah, it's been a while, and yeah, it's been a nice, lovely journey. So this mug it always reminds me of when they were this age.
Aw, that's so sweet. That's so sweet. And I know everyone in your family is musical, so it's pretty cool. I'm very curious when you're going to have like a family album or something coming out.
Yeah, I
All
know. I
right.
mean,
Yeah.
it's great
So
fun.
first of all, I'm sure every time we visit you, we always enjoy that. So I want to give a first and foremost a huge shout out to a dear friend of ours and also a colleague of ours at Berkeley, Clint Valadares. You guys
Hey,
grew
Clint,
up together,
absolutely.
and we all call him Clinty. And I know you have so many stories, and you guys used to play in
And
church together as well, right?
yes, absolutely. Clint and I, we go back a long way. And honestly, this is something I was going to come to later in the show. But since you brought up Clint right now, I want to say that Clint and I, the first time he went to Berkeley back in those days, if you have to understand, we're coming from a time when there was no internet, right?
Yeah.
So there was no access to. So if you needed to go to music college, you needed an aunt or an uncle who lived in the US to mail
Ah.
you a prospectus or stuff like that. It
Right.
was
Right.
it was
Right.
it was kind of as tough as that.
Right.
And I remember Clint the first time he went to Berkeley and he came back. He called me up and said, "You got to come over because I've got 80 CDs with me." And there's 80, yeah, he bought 80 CDs on that first trip. And there's it's some of the most mind-blowing music you've ever heard.
Wow.
You've never heard this kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
honestly, you could never get this kind of music at Rhythm House or any,
Right.
because there was Little River Band, there was Michael Franks, there was Steely Dan, there were
Wow.
artists that we had no access to, and it kind of literally blew my mind, opened my mind.
Wow.
So yeah, Clint is somebody who's been influential in so many ways.
Absolutely. And for us as well. I mean, he's such an integral part of everything. And he was, one of the main reasons that we were able to bring you to Berkeley way back in 2013 when we had very different looking hair.
Right.
And it's good times. And so here's what I'm curious about. I know that you had music all around you, but was there one pivotal moment or one pivotal conversation or something that really sparked it that you knew, okay, this is going to be my lifelong passion?
Well, I mean, I did come from a very academic family, so for me, it was never an automatic thing, to think about
Mm.
music.
Hmm.
Um, so I was in college. I was going to do my MBA, and I had already bought the books to study for the entrance exam. I was already working on that, and
Uh-huh.
but at the same time, while I was in college, I used to find myself bunking college and going for recording, small, backing vocal
Of
sessions that we
course.
would get, stuff like that. You just try to get your feet wet.
Yeah.
But I never thought that it was something I would take seriously. And until one conversation happened, strange that you
Mm.
should say conversation, because Asif Ali Beg, who's actor, lyricist, singer. We were one gang at that point.
Wow.
Dominique as well. Dominique
Yeah.
was actually just a friend at that point, and someone I looked up to tremendously, because she
Right.
was one of the busiest recording
Singers.
artists in,
Yeah.
at that time, like literally.
Right.
And So we were one gang, and we were uh, uh, literally standing in. I remember this. We were standing in Dom's compound at like maybe 1 in the morning after
Hmm.
going out somewhere and dropping. We were dropping her back home, and Asif asks me, "Where do you see yourself 10 years from now?" And
Right.
I said, "I." I've not really thought about it, but yeah, I mean, I'm going to do my MBA. Where I was in my TY at that point. So he said, you know how I see you? I see you wearing a terracotta shirt and a tie and getting on your bike and fighting traffic from Mahim to Nariman Point every day from 9 in the morning to 5 in the evening, coming back and, doing the same thing for the next 40 years. Do you want to live like that? Is that how you see yourself? And I mean, you know what? No offense to all my corporate friends who may be watching this, but I just didn't see myself behind a desk. I didn't see myself in a desk
Yeah.
job and, doing that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So that's when I,
Wow.
decided, you know what, I'm gonna give this a shot, and I had to
Yeah.
break the news to my folks,
How
that
was
I'm not
that?
going to do my MBA. Yeah, I mean, it took a while for them to get used to, but now they're really, really supportive.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah,
There's something about really knowing, or at least giving something a shot. And I mean, I think I can speak for
yeah,
everyone at Berkeley, and everyone who knows your music. And I hope, like, I mean, you're already huge, but I really want everyone to hear you, because you have such a distinct personality and also integrity of your sound. It's really incredible, and you
thank
know
you,
that I'm
thank
not
you.
just saying.
No, I
So
know.
I want to talk about those early days as you were starting, going into this. How did you get better at being, a really wonderful, cool, what's the word I'm looking for? I would say you are probably one of the most in tune vocalists I've ever heard. Across
Ah,
the people I've worked with in so many years, there's something about your intonation that is really spot on, and I feel like you've worked on that. It's not just of course it's a god-given talent, but
right.
what are some of the
It,
things you did?
I think it just came also from a mad obsession with music at that stage of my life. Once I decided that this is what I was going to do, then I wanted to basically figure out everything I could possibly figure out. And one of the things I did was I had started investing in gear, right? So
Hmm.
I had all this gear with me, and I had a module called the Proteus. I don't know if people will remember this, but it was by Emu, and so it had this thing called 48 note octave,
Hmm.
which is basically from between C and C sharp. There's like three other semitones. So it literally takes you 4 octaves to reach 1 octave. So you're listening to all the microtones.
Wow.
So I would obsessively play each microtone and try to sing each microtone so that I could train my ear. I would do things like, play music on my Walkman and
Yeah.
record myself on another Walkman while I couldn't hear myself. So I would try to sing, while hearing from bone conduction, like, hearing myself in my head.
Yeah, the vibration.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing is that as a result of that, when I started arranging vocals for AR and for a lot of people in a big group, I was able to separate timbers
Mm-hmm.
really well. And, so I mean, it's just something that, uh, I, it helps when you're a vocal arranger and when you're doing stuff, like that.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
course, I mean, once once I also this I was working as a composer for a longer time. I also moved away from that mindset to an extent and moved beyond that. That music is not just about pitch or intonation. It's about soul. It's about feel. There's a lot of other things that are holistic to how a singer is perceived. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So all
Well,
of
I
that. I
think
mean, you keep evolving as a musician, and things always change as you change. I mean, in your musical journey.
they do. They do. And I think what I'm hearing from you is that you had already trained your muscles to have such clear recognition and response to your mental decisions, that now if you choose to be free, you have all the freedom in the world, because
Yes. Yeah.
you're
Absolutely.
already
Absolutely.
trained. And
Absolutely.
that training was on your own, which is another thing that I want to really point out to people, is that you didn't necessarily go to another school to do it. You just
Yes.
found a tool and you honed your skill
Right.
on your own,
Right.
which is
Exactly. I mean,
powerful.
I think that we didn't have access to schools, right? So for me, it was about listening. I would listen to, I would listen to stuff, and I would listen to a Jackson. Like I remember listening to The Way You Make Me Feel and hearing how Bruce Swidden, mixed that vocal stack of Jackson
Yeah.
on tape in those days, and it just blows my mind even when you hear it now. The way it comes at you, I was like, what are we doing, wrong? What am I doing wrong? Or why can't I get to sound like that? And then that's when I realized
Right.
that it's all about how you write. I mean, you're the expert when it comes to vocal harmony. I don't even want to be talking too much about vocal harmony when you're sitting in front of me.
Hey.
But yeah, that's how it is, right? It's all about
Yeah.
the writing. It's about how you position one frequency against another. That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I like that you talked about frequency, because I also think of frequency in terms of energy, and like energy between people. And
Right.
you've done a whole bunch of collaborations. And it's so important for musicians to be able to collaborate. And also sometimes you come across a person that you don't feel the synergy immediately. It could be a wavelength thing, like an actually emotional, intellectual wavelength thing, or it could also be just aesthetically opposite. I mean, what were some of the most unusual or even difficult collaborations for you? And like, did it lead to something else? Did it teach you something? Share with us.
Well, when it comes to unusual collaborations, this leads me to speaking about the way I arrived at the forming the band Anantal, which is like which was just post Coke Studio, and it's so funny because Nishant Nayak, who was the director of Coke Studio back then, the
Yeah.
the video director of Coke Studio. His dad was a man called Anand Naik, really, really, really lovely person, and he was on the board of directors of ITC, really,
Hmm.
really high up there. And
Right.
I remember him calling me and saying, you know what, I'm coming to Mumbai and I want to meet with you. And I said, yeah, sure, I'd love to meet you. And so he said that met me. I remember meeting him at Land's End, and uh, he said, I want you to do one thing. I loved your episode, first of all, of Coke Studio. It was my
Hmm.
favorite episode. And I want you to compose a song which includes all my favorite singers in your episode. So I want you to compose a song which comprises all my favorite singers. And I'll tell you who those singers are. so it's
Okay.
I so my favorite singers are Vijay Prakash, Bianca Gomes, and Sonu Kakkar. So I want you to compose a song for me with all these three singers. So I was like, okay, wow, that's what a strange brief. But okay, fine, let's do it. And I remember doing that and composing a song that was literally, Coke Studio style, 7 minutes long, because it
Yeah.
had to incorporate all these styles, different
Everybody.
styles,
Yeah.
diverse, exactly. but it was still cohesive and was still, and he loved it so much. He said, I want you to bring your whole band with Vijay Prakash, Bianca, Sonu, and perform this song at the opening of the new Grand Chola in
Wow.
Chennai, the Chola
Yeah.
shelf, which later became the Grand Chola. And they got us down, all expense paid, of course, and was we just performed for those 7 minutes.
Oh,
And
that
it
was
was
just the
such a
one song.
just that song. That's all. We just wanted that 7 minute song
Yeah.
to be showcased.
Yeah.
And I there was something. Of course, Sonu, had her own stuff to do as a solo artist and whatever. But working with Vijay and Bianca as well, that kind of opened this thing in me. It was like an unexpected collaboration in a sense.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what, let's try and do something more where I
Hmm.
can bring these two sides, like the completely pop side that I know so well,
Right.
and this other side that Vijay has that I don't know so well, but I would like to get to know better,
Yeah.
and that's how it came about.
Yeah. Do you ever have a sort of a mental block when it comes to those
Another
kind of
you know
things?
another interesting collaboration I want to talk about at
Huh.
this stage is when I first met Sawan Khan Mangania. And that story is pretty much how I literally saw a YouTube video. It had some 45 views on it, and he was sitting literally in his village singing with his
Mm.
son playing the dholak, and I didn't know who this person was. And I remember just asking the team at MTV, just who is this guy? And I just saw one comment on the video. This is Sawan Khan
Yeah.
Mangania, one of the greatest Mangania singers alive. And
Right.
I just told the team that we need to find this guy, and they actually reached out to him. He was in Jaisalmer in this little village, got him, and when he reached my studio, he uh, this communicating was hard because he doesn't speak in Hindi. He speaks Hindi, and I don't speak Hindi, of course. But once we got to the music, it just broke all barriers of communication, and it just became like we just understood each other. So
Yeah.
that was it was amazing for me
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah. Well, I like the concept of being open. I like that you didn't think it was impossible, and interestingly enough, it led to a band. I actually want our audience to hear. Let's Rohit, could we play a little bit of Anantal's music just to give a sense of that flavor that Clinton is talking about that he got inspired with? It's cool that that one project led to this band.
इनायत करे हजार लग जाने दिन रह गए चार छुड़वे इनायत है दरकार लग जाने दिन रह गए चार मुल्ला इनायत करे हजार लग दिन जाने रह गए चार
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So I have a question about Anantal, and it's a larger question, and I think I would love for us, especially on Chai Time with Bix, to go into more of the conceptual rather than the specifics of various
Right.
experiences, but really the conceptual, emotional or psychological things that you've learned from those experiences. Uh, you I've I learned that the songs that you released on the album were not your first couple of songs that you composed with the group. And one of the things that I always have a problem with is that I get attached to my first song or my first idea, or even with the band. I know so many bands trying to make albums, and they are they'll write one song and they'll keep rewriting that song for sometimes a month, 2 months. So when you approach as a producer or as a band member, do you write, let's say, 30 songs and then choose 5 or 8 for an album, or do you keep working at it? When do you know that it's enough? When do you like emotionally detach from that song with your band to know, okay, let's move on to something else. Let's like, I know many people in bands struggle with this. I do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think it's ever. I don't think a song is ever finished. you just abandon it, you know.
It's hard to
At,
do
at,
that. It feels
right,
like
at
your
some
baby,
point,
you know?
at some point you just abandon it, you know. But you have to. There's no, because otherwise it's never, you're never gonna feel it's absolutely done, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, if you ask me, if I go back to the first song that I ever wrote with Ananta, once we actually
Yeah.
started meeting and writing, it's probably a song we haven't released yet, because
Right.
we kept writing, and I felt that it's keeping on getting better every time we are meeting. The synergy is working more and more. So why should we release this when I know that if we meet more, we'll probably, those songs will probably be cooked a little better. And
Yeah.
that's when we as we met more, we started beginning to solidify the songs that were going to be on the album. And also, I have to say at this point that once we took the songs to the band, to Gino, Sheldon, Devin, and Posey,
Mm.
they just took on a different, like a life of their own,
Yeah.
because these guys added so much to it, and then I kept, receiving from them, and then watching the song evolve and then shaping it differently because of what I received from them. So
Yeah.
that had so much to do with it. And then when we were ready after we had rehearsed, that's when I said, now I need to capture this same energy like we did in Coke Studio. We need to play all together. So we booked NZ
Mm.
Studio, and we all went in together and all just played together. And that energy is what we captured on the album. And I think it would have been very different if we hadn't done that.
Right. And so again, thinking concepts, I guess, is not being too precious about, a single idea or a first
Yeah,
idea.
exactly. And I mean, I have to say that when it comes to working with somebody, or working with, when I was just starting out, I remember having done at least 300 songs on my little XP80 as a, with the floppy disks that,
Yeah.
I remember having done at least 300 songs on that machine
Yeah.
before I even took up my first project as a producer.
Talk about that, because, I think a lot of people feel like they want to make it with that first project, and that's very
Yeah,
interesting. It's like,
yeah,
do the work
yeah. I mean,
before, like
exactly.
also
I mean, I feel that,
learning who you are artistically, and so that you have
right.
vocabulary. Yeah.
Absolutely. For me
I-
at that point, and I feel that that's something that kids today are at a very, very big disadvantage, because of the fact that there's so much of pressure uh, from social media to keep putting out stuff all the time. For everything that you put out, I feel that you need to spend 8 hours learning and maybe 1 hour putting that stuff out. Like, and if you're not getting the time to do that, or if you're not going to be, uh, you're you're not going to have something to say that's concrete and that's outside
right.
of the environment that you're building on social media, which is basically about you and about your projection of yourself. Your projection of yourself has to be different from who you are. What you project of yourself is different, but what are you building? You need to build something so that you can project a part of that. If you're
I
if
love
you're projecting if you're projecting everything that you have at that point, then there's nothing left. You don't have any reserve. You need to build so much more and project just a little bit of it.
I really love that. I love that. So on that note, about building yourself, I know that, first you had Vijay and Bianca and Anantal, and then you started writing just with Bianca. And we've had a conversation about this, that it challenged you. And I want to talk about how to pick bandmates. And again, maybe less of the specifics, but more from a conceptual place. How to pick bandmates that you can disagree with healthily, who are going to bring something different, because so many times I think there's beauty in working with people who are on the exact same wavelength, and there's something that sparks when it's someone who's aesthetically far from you. So can you talk about
Right,
that for a bit?
right, right. Absolutely. I think that like I think one of the first time that I actually started writing was also because very logistically, Vijay was doing a lot of TV in the south at that time. So he would be out
Hmm.
out of the city for like days on end, and there would be like no traction because we are trying to write stuff, and Vijay would be like in Chennai shooting for the thing and whatever. So I would be like, okay, listen, we just come to the studio and let's see if we
Let's
can
do
move this
something.
idea forward. Let's
Yeah.
see if we can move the idea forward, because then when Vijay comes, we can then fit his like fit him into the mix and figure out
Right.
how we are all doing this.
Sure.
Yeah, so uh, at the same time, that to me gave me a sense of who Bianca is as a songwriter. And she had this strong pop side of her, which I kind of discovered while I was writing for Antal, even though the material was so different.
Mm.
But I realized that, listen, she's got something that, I'm not saying that, see, everybody can write whatever they want to write.
Right.
But there are some people who have, something inside of them that just makes them do it naturally. So she has this thing where she writes great pop hooks, just really sticky pop hooks. And I said that, yeah, I mean, so I said, you know what, we need to do a pop project,
Yeah.
which is not Anantal material,
Yeah.
and just see how that works. Because there's also a pop side of me, which I kind of, I used to do so. I mean, a lot of pop stuff earlier, but because of Coke Studio becoming this big thing in my
Right.
professional career and everything,
Yeah.
I became labeled as a fusion guy, and
Right.
I really, what I mean. And
I
that's
do.
that's something that happens a lot in the industry. People tend to stereotype you, and then I would find myself even for gigs only being called for fusion gigs, or
Yeah.
or people have this thing that, oh, this guy's great for this, which automatically means he'll never be good at this. And that's like cinematographers have that problem all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a great cinematographer, he can't direct, he probably can't direct, or he can't,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. But as
that
artists, there's so
exactly.
much in our
We have so much to
bubble.
give, right? And that's
But
why
you're right.
so I said, you know what, we gotta do this. We gotta do this pop project, which will completely be a departure from what I'm doing with Anantal. I'm doing that kind
Yeah.
of stuff, and
Yeah.
that's when it led to Chor Police happening. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's been so great. It's been so well received, and I love the fact that the first time we did a live was at Berkeley, Abu Dhabi, and you guys,
That's
Berkeley
right.
has always been so much a part of my own journey as a musician,
Mm.
as an artist. So it's great to
Thank you. Yeah.
to
Well,
be
we were
always
grateful to
associated.
have you. I actually think that this is a perfect time. Let's listen to one of those sticky hooks. Did uh, did did Bianca write this hook?
Absolutely, she did.
Okay, Rohit, thank you. Play for us something from Shore Police.
अंजना चालाकियों में क्या मजा
Yeah.
ओ अंजना चिंगारियों सी है फिजा
Yeah, and that's so different from the kind of Sufi element from Inayat. And I like that. I like, I think my favorite thing that I'm picking up from you is that even though you might be as an artist getting success with one side, one shade or one color of your artistry, be unafraid to expose and also explore and spend time and pay attention to the other sides of your artistry that
Right.
may or may not be popular yet. And again, why do it only for popularity? Like just allowing
Yes,
yourself
yes.
to express. I
Like
really love that.
one of the biggest examples for me was Sting, The Last Ship, when he released The Last Ship.
Hmm. Hmm.
Those songs, those songs. I mean, a lot of people just didn't. didn't get it, or like there were that album received so many negative reviews that,
Right.
oh, he's
Like
it's too
it's not sting
indulgent,
enough.
it's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
sting enough, and all that
yeah.
kind of thing. And I just connected it with so deeply in a way, because
Yeah.
I felt that there was a part of him that he pulled out, from some part of his past,
Mm.
and poured out into that album. And
Yeah.
he didn't care. He didn't care what impact it made. It was completely devoid of the usual tags of it being sting, or it being this, or being whatever people had labeled him to be. And that's why I
Mm.
love that album so much.
That's beautiful. And it's also cathartic, I think, for artists to get things out.
Yeah,
And
exactly. I mean,
I want to ask another question. I mean, somewhat slightly segueing more to your film work.
mhm.
Um, as someone who writes for films, it's such a different environment than when you're with a band of your own, where maybe you're the musical director. So you've got that a responsibility, but you also have the power, and it's your idea, it's your vision. When
Annette, sorry,
you have to, huh?
Annette, could you repeat the last two sentences? I
Sure.
think you just froze for a bit.
So when you're a film director, it's so different than when you're with your band. With your band, you have your own vision that you can kind of
Right.
drive forward, even if you're open to other people. But when you, as a musician, as an artist, or any creative person is trying to fulfill someone else's vision, what's that like? Also, when people say, okay, make it sound purple, like how do you, what's your mental sort of tool or mental
Yeah.
mindset when you go in to help someone else's vision come true,
Right.
especially for film?
Absolutely. And I know that this is a conversation I've had with you in the past, where an agency guy walked up to me one day and said, "It's not purple enough." That moment in the ad is not purple enough. So what is purple to you? Turned out to for him, purple was something with wind chimes, some sound with wind chimes, which was purple for him. For somebody else it could be yellow, right? I mean, how do you? Uh, but yeah, I mean, when it comes to music for film, and even music
Yeah.
for ads, of course, ads are very micro. Films are more macro, I would say. But you cannot have a favorite genre. You know,
if
you
you're
cannot
if
afford
you're
to
going
have a
into
favorite
that,
genre.
yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes. You need to be able to say, okay, I'm going to be equally adept at anything that and you need to then build up chops for every genre that makes people feel like, oh, he's composing this genre from the inside.
Right, authentic.
Absolutely. Otherwise it'll just feel fake. And you
Mm,
need to start listening to music that you don't connect with, and try to find things in that music that you can connect with.
that's actually a great
That's
thing.
that's
Yeah.
the first step to being able to then transport that to the execution side, which is then when you're actually sitting and programming it, or producing it. Because when you first listen, you need to start being able to find things in it that you really connect with.
Wow,
I
I love
remember
that.
when I was
Also,
when I was
go
when I was
ahead.
working on Jugni, the film Jugni. It was a film that required music that was so folk in nature, because it was a village set on
Hmm.
the outskirts of Punjab, a village called Morinda, and this boy who's a musician, and very rustic, very folk. So I was thinking, like, why did the producers of this film come to me for this film? I can think of myself, I can think of like at least three or four better names who would be able to do like authentic folk music, authentic Punjabi folk.
Imposter syndrome.
So you know what? I said that I'm gonna take this as a challenge, and I'm gonna immerse myself in that music for a whole 2 months before I even start writing the first song. So I'm gonna start thinking like a folk musician, and I every night I would listen to Nusrat, I would listen to Qawwalis, I would listen to like uh, ghazals, even Mehdi Hassan. I would just immerse myself in those rags, in those melodies, in and then when I started writing. I bought a harmonium because I didn't have a harmonium then.
You
I
didn't
said, you
have
know
one.
what?
Yeah.
I'm not going to use my harmonic knowledge as a keyboard player to prop up my melodies because the way Indian melodies are written and or the way
Yeah.
forget about written first, just perceived. The way when you're a Western musician, you always perceive a melody in relation to its chords, in relation to the harmony behind it.
Uh-huh.
Whereas when you're listening to an Indian melody, you perceive it in relation to the sa, the root, the tonic, right?
Yeah.
So so I said, you know what, I'm gonna write this whole album on the harmonium because I'm not gonna play a single chord, and
I love that.
I'm gonna write every line until I'm happy with every line just by itself, just as a melody. Doesn't matter
Yeah.
what chord comes before, what chord comes after. I want to be able to sing each melody just with one just with one star behind it, and I want to be able to like it first. Once I've done that, once I'm really happy with each, so I would keep honing each line and like doggedly, working on each line till I was happy melodically with the idea. Then I would say, okay, now I'm not going to compose any further. If there's something that I feel is still bothering me about it, now I'm gonna come into the harmonic side of things, and I'm gonna color it the way I know how as a Western
Mm.
musician. I'm gonna make this music my own, and I'm gonna make it different because of how I can color a melody with my harmony, with my knowledge of harmony. And I think that process for me was it really opened my brain because I said that how do you get out of yourself to compose something? You do that by imposing restrictions on yourself and trying to work within those restrictions,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
leads to something bigger than you.
I love it. I actually really like that. And see, now this is in terms of composing the full songs. What about background? Because, I remember I heard this about the best background scores are the ones you don't hear. You just feel them.
Absolutely.
You can even ignore them. You don't even
Right.
realize that they're happening. And you have an example of something from Kahani. And the reason that I want to bring this up is because you rewrote it many times. And a lot of us, I mean, even for me, I know many musicians face this. We put some sort of a pressure on ourselves that the first version of this needs to be it. Or, I'll work it 2 or 3 times. And then if I haven't got it, or if I'm not happy with it, and even more so if somebody else is not happy with it, that means I am a bad composer or I am not a good
Yes.
expressive person. And
Right.
first of all, what is, do you have a block there or do you not have a block there at all?
Yeah. So I mean, it took me a long time to get into that mind space where I realized this, that every director, when you're working on a film, every director is so different, and
Mm.
their perception of music is so different. So
Yeah.
like I remember this scene in Kahani. Sujoy made me do it 9 times because eh, every time I kept playing him something and calling him back to the studio to hear a different version of it,
And
he would say,
it's not a song, it's like the background
just a
music of
scene.
one scene, right?
Literally, Vidya enters the house the first time. If you've seen Kahani, she enters her
Yeah.
home the first time, and just that feeling that she's feeling. He was saying, I want to feel claustrophobia. I want to feel claustrophobic in this scene. The music has to make me feel claustrophobic. And no matter what I did, Sujoy would come in and say, I'm not feeling claustrophobic. So
Huh.
I would be, listen, man, you know what? After the point, after the sixth version or whatever, I said, I'm literally gonna cover your mouth so you can't breathe and make you hear it. Maybe you'll feel claustrophobic. Because I had, I had like, and I think on the eighth or ninth version, I
Mm.
did this, I just did this guitar, this reversed guitar, jazz guitar, which I reversed, you know, and had a bed of sarangis which I stretched. like granularly and made it sound like a pad. And
Yeah.
those reverse guitars over that scene, and he suddenly was saying, "Yes, I'm feeling that sense of abandonment, of that she's completely, like, she wants to
Alone.
be, yeah, alone, that feeling of complete dread, and that kind of thing." And I remember that during that whole process, every time he would come and reject that track that I did, it would uh, it took a long time for me to realize that what he's rejecting is not me, he's rejecting my point of view. And
Yeah.
everybody has a point of view, every musician has a point of view, every director also has a point of view. So what he's rejecting is your point of view, he's not rejecting you. And that is something that a lot of people, especially in the earlier years, they put so much of themselves as musicians into their music that
Yeah.
they cannot handle rejection. They cannot handle it. And being a session artist means that's the first thing you need to get used to. Like I say, it's like literally, if you were a painter, you think of yourself as a painter. You paint a painting, you build it, you make it like really, you craft it completely, spend hours doing it. And at the end of it, you give your client or your director, you give him a pot of ink in his hand, and he can literally take that pot of ink and throw it on that painting if he so wishes. And you give it to him freely. You give it to him. That's the thing. And that, when you learn to deal with that, is when you can actually start seeing some success as a session artist. Because it's not about you, it's about something else. And you're just trying to deliver what someone else wants to say musically.
Yeah. Let's play it now. Let's actually play that scene that you did 9 times. I Yeah, I've watched the movie and I don't know if I I noticed it. Ah, yeah,
So yeah, I mean, it's so subjective, right? But that's what art is, and that's the beauty of it.
yeah. I think I'm going there. I'm in that mode now. You really feel it. And here's the thing, most of us will never know that it was done 9 times, and that whole clip was what, 1.5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's it's a great lesson, it's a great teaching point. So similar to this, rejection, I know that you've also done, especially in the jingle world, you've done entire projects where you've finished a project and then it goes to an ad agency, for an ad, and then they're like, yeah, no, it's not working. Or you even pitch it like you get, everything complete, and then finally somebody along the line says, I don't think so, let's go with another option. So has that happened? And like, again, how do you feel when that happens? Do you even get paid? I don't know if you get paid when that happens. I don't know.
Well,
But
that
like,
that
yeah,
that actually depends on your relationship with the production house, with the agency, and with the director, and how much you want to flex your muscle. Frankly, that's
sure.
that's completely you know your your
Yeah,
policy
your
as well,
personal,
as an artist,
right,
your
right.
personal choice.
Yeah,
But I would say that more than anything else, you have to realize that no matter what, the director has to be happy. If he's not happy, he'll never call you back.
right.
So that has to be uppermost on your mind when you're working.
Mm,
That you have to make him happy one way or the other. He cannot leave that room knowing that he's got anything less than 100% of what he wanted,
mm. But do you
and that.
ever, sorry, go ahead. And that?
No, so for me, that that becomes important when I'm composing. I need to be able to feel that, okay, I've not just satisfied him where he's taking what he can get because he's, this is the best we can do. But I will then personally make changes until I know that he's floored by it. Or I will say,
Mm,
listen, you know what, I don't like this. I'm gonna do another version. Come back tomorrow.
mm,
Or if I sense that it's not going somewhere where I'm just not happy when he's okay with it.
Yeah.
He has to be blown away.
Yeah.
And that's something I think another thing I got from Dominique when we first started seeing each other. And
Mm.
she used to do 2 3 recordings a day. And the first time I asked her, what does it take to be a successful jingle singer? And she said, when you get on that mic, you have to knock their socks off. Anything less than that, they'll never call you back. And that was like, oh wow, like that was a slap in the face. And I actually started learning production because I really felt that that's so demanding on you as a singer. I better learn to do something else as well. You know, no, but I mean, jokes apart. But I think that for me, there are times when a song can come out of something that like Moje and Anna, the story of Moje and Anna, for example.
Ah,
It was this was a 30-second jingle that was that I had done
I know
for
this.
Airtel,
Yeah. Yeah.
and uh, Bianca had sung, and it was great. And Sujat, who's the director, who also was incidentally the director of the Antal video, and
Hmm.
someone who I've known for so many years. So he loved it, and it's still on the net. It's still a showreel version. Maybe we can play that later if you guys have it. And
Sure.
it's
Sure.
still
Sure.
it's
Yeah.
still on the it's still on the net in his personal showreel. But the client bounced that jingle. And it was lying on my hard disk for a whole year.
And
Then when I
bounce, just because not everybody understands, bounce the jingle means
means they rejected it. They said no,
okay,
this is
it's
not
not being
working for our
used.
brand. It's not being used. So
Mm.
we're not using that track. So that just was lying on my hard disk for a year. And when I needed a sixth song for Coke Studio a year later,
Mm.
I suddenly remembered that melody, and the melody was like haunting.
Yeah.
And I said, let me do something with this. And I remember sitting just in my studio that one evening and writing what for me just became this epic version of a small, crazy, intimate idea. It
Yeah.
suddenly became huge, and it was a perfect example of how a song is literally taking me with it. It's not like I am doing anything to stop it, but I felt like I was hanging on to the last uh, cart of a roller coaster on that evening when I was writing it. And I remember calling Manoj excitedly and saying, I have this line in my head. Okay, I don't know if it means anything, and it's this line is Moje Nena Milke. And he said,
Ah.
well, what is Moje Nena Milke? It doesn't mean anything. It is, I can say Moj Nena Milke or whatever. And I can use, I can because Nena is eyes. But I said, you know what? I just have this line. The sonics of it is what is haunting to me. Moje Nena Milke. Okay. And he said, but we can't use it because it doesn't mean anything. I said, no, Manoj, we have to use it because I love how it sounds. So he says, but lyrically, how will I incorporate it? So I
Yeah.
said, I don't care. You use the rest of the song to justify why you've said Moje Nana Milke, but say Moje Nana Milke. And he said, are you're a crazy guy, but I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna take this as a challenge. And the rest of the song he wrote to justify why he said Moje Nana Milke. And it was just unbelievable. He was surprised himself. He said, if you had not given me that boundary, if you had not given me that restriction, I could have written about anything. And
Right.
it was so crazy. But he said the song became so powerful
Yeah.
because of that, because of what you told me. That it's amazing. And then of course that's an aside. But the best part was that when we released the song, I met the same agency guys from who
Who
yeah
rejected the
on
ad?
another job, and that guy was telling me, "Hey, man, dude, that Mojin and Milky from Coke Studio, man, what a track, it's like crazy, it's so huge, and it's so epic, and it's like cult, and all that kind of thing." And I said, well, doesn't the melody ring a bell? you know.
Hmm.
So he says, yeah, I mean, it does actually sound familiar. And I said, yeah, it's the track that you guys rejected. And I honestly feel that
Yeah.
sometimes that's the best thing that can happen, rejection, when you can turn it on its head and turn it into something, that maybe that melody was always destined for something bigger than just a jingle,
Right. Right.
So
Well, we have to watch a little bit of both. Rohit has been doing some magic to get all this organized for us. So let's play the Airtel video and go ahead. And Clinton, you can also talk about it because it's a little bit dark. It's happening in a dormitory.
yes, you can just see the lights of everyone's
You
phone.
think I'm crazy, but I'm not. When I close my eyes, the lights go off. I wake in my bed, fireflies in my head. You think I'm crazy, I'm not.
Yeah, we all know that Airtel jingle. Okay, and then let's see a little bit of Mojenena. So this is what it
I
became, the epic thing.
wake in my bed, your secrets in my head. You think I'm crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that. I do really
good time.
love that. I'm going to
Yeah.
invite Lydia back to the screen. What I like the most is, your realization in hindsight that maybe this song, this jingle was meant for greater things. And yeah, it's a great way to think about things. Lydia, you have some questions from our audience that you're facilitating. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes. Hi, everyone. A very few questions. I think we've enthralled them so much that people are not even asking. They're just like, oh my God, teach me more. But we do have one amazing question from Prithvi Prajosh. How do you think the internet has impacted the way music is followed across the globe? And do you start by making music for yourself or based on how your audience will receive it?
Wow, that's an amazing question actually, and
Exactly.
I think that I think of myself as an artist, and every artist needs to be heard. If you're a dancer, you need to be watched. If you're a painter, your painting needs to be seen. So of course you got to treat your audience with that much respect. I feel that very often musicians tend to go into themselves to a point where their work becomes uh, a very very exclusive thing, and that's something that not many people can understand. While while that's also great, it's important to do that as well, because it sometimes, like the example of Sting I gave earlier, where he didn't really make that album for his audience at all. But it's so important to be able to do uh, 10x for your audience, so that you do have an audience when you do want to say the things that you want to say that matter to you. It's important that you have an audience to begin with, and that will only happen if you think about them first. So you need to, whether it's on the internet or pre-internet or whatever, it's always about treating your audience with that much respect that will make them interested in you to begin with, and then figure out what you want to say as an artist, in the, yeah, I mean, those are the like, and also make sure that you have enough to say as an artist because of what you've experienced in the industry to begin with. So that will obviously come later. You need to have lived life first, and lived and been through the grind as a musician before you have something to say that will be of any relevance or any, I mean, that's just personal. Today, everybody has a lot to say because of social media and the pressure to say something, whether or not you have anything concrete to say.
Mm.
But that's a separate issue. I feel that as an artist, if you want to make music that has impact, then it's very, very important that you think about your audience. You think about your audience a great deal, and you work with that mindset. And then when you actually want to make the music that you want to make, there will be an audience who will be faithful. They'll be waiting. They'll be hanging on to every word that you say.
Wow, what an answer. It's amazing.
Mm. Yeah,
And
there's
then,
actually a question actually from Sujata. I might rephrase this question from Sujata, which is, some people feel like it's better to just do their own original music, but then they are not able to maybe immediately make a living off of it. And there's a certain mindset, like even at Berkeley, I think there's sometimes a mindset, oh, certain types of music are better than the other, and also certain types of jobs are better than the other. And what's your take? I mean, do you have an opinion on that?
I think that whatever you do, as long as you're doing it honestly and you're doing it, with integrity, it doesn't matter. I mean, I don't really say this often, and this is probably maybe the first time I'm saying it like on this big a platform. But before I started working with AR and with a whole lot of other really, really uh, big famous composers and whatever, I'd invested all this money in equipment, and I needed to make some money off it somehow. And I was willing to do any work, anything that came my way. As a producer, I wanted to get, and I actually started doing arranging music that would be played in dance bars. I actually did that, and I
Hmm.
was like, I literally did those albums with so much, with so much passion. Even though they were going to just be played in a dance bar, it doesn't matter. You know what? I'm getting paid for it, and it's something that, at this point in my life, is serving the purpose. And I mean, it honestly doesn't matter. You just need to be able to do whatever you need to do at that point to further your goal. What is your end goal? If your end goal is to make your original music, how are you going to be able to have the audience to make that music and to do it to the level where you need to be? If doing, like, say, covers, or doing maybe a lesser form of music is going to probably help you reach that stage when you can actually attend that stuff, then by all means do it. Immerse yourself in it at that point, because it's going to help you to achieve your final goal. The end goal is what matters.
I agree. Liz, do you want to talk about Rajat's question, Rajat Jain?
sure. How do you decide on the space you give in your pieces for the listener to interpret in their own way? And does your own emotion at that point of time reflect in your music?
I need to read this question again. How do you decide on the space you give in your pieces of music, the listener to interpret it? Okay, I think that people will interpret your music the way they want to, and it will be a reflection of what they have experienced in their lives. You can't control that. All you can control is what's coming back to you from from your logic screen, or from your guitar, or from your piano, or from your voice, or whatever. What messages are you getting first, and is it feeding you in a way that makes you happy? And if you reach that level where you can start sensing that on an everyday basis, then others will start sensing it too automatically. You don't need to be worried about how they're perceiving this music, because it will start reflecting the music will start speaking for itself, I feel.
Mm. Mm. Yeah,
Wow.
agree. So I want to break it up a little bit. I want to keep it a little bit light, and I'm going to do some rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Oh, cool.
Also,
I'm not
Clinton,
normally
I
good at
have
these,
a no, it's okay.
but
I have a
let's try.
request. I want you to move to your right so that you're not covered by our logo. Oh, actually, now you're fine. Okay. So, um, if you had a random superpower, what would it be? What do you want?
A random superpower.
Yeah, it's like some
Wow.
very cool superpower. What do you want?
Um, I really, well,
Okay, I'll make it a little
I'm,
easier. I'll make it
okay,
easier.
okay,
A
right,
random musical superpower.
right, okay. I should ask Jacob Collier. He already has multiple random superpowers. But I think for
Yeah.
me, it would be the the ability to harmonically go far ahead of where I am right now. I think because harmony is such an ocean,
Yeah.
and especially jazz harmony, especially like advanced jazz harmony, it's something that still eludes me. And um, so I like to work within the parameters of what I can handle.
But
But
this is a
I would say,
superpower, remember.
oh, nobody on earth has it, not even Jacob.
Maybe not even Jacob.
Yeah.
But
Well,
that's cool. I do like that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that I remember having a dream once, okay,
Hmm.
and I could have sworn I woke up saying I heard the music of heaven because just it was incredible. It was like there were more than 12 notes
Huh.
on the keyboard, and there was this harmony happening that was so I think I can only think of it as a spiritual experience because it was beyond the music you could have that can be made in 12 notes. It's literally it was beyond that. So I think it comes closest to experiencing what supernatural music would be like. So I don't know what
That's
having a
cool.
superpower would be like, but yeah,
I like this idea. I like this idea. Okay, salty or sweet breakfast?
salty.
Okay, a song you wish you wrote.
Visions by Stevie Wonder.
Ooh, okay. Favorite cuisine on the planet?
Japanese.
Yay! By the way, for anyone who doesn't know, Clinton is firstly a massive culinary expert. Secondly, anytime he tours,
Uh,
he really does research on like the best places to eat, and it's always a good time with Clinton with food. Yeah.
absolutely.
So actually, weirdest food you've ever eaten?
Grasshoppers.
Really? Oh, where was that?
Yeah. Thailand, I think. Yeah.
Are they crunchy? Oh, so
They're
sad.
crunchy. They're full of protein.
And since you talked about dreams, do you remember your dreams?
Yeah, quite. I mean, most of them. It depends on. It's, sometimes not, but I remember
Yeah.
quite a few.
And color or black and white?
Color.
Okay. And one prank from your childhood that maybe nobody knows about. Haha.
Oh wow.
Or like one
Mm,
naughty thing that you did.
well, I've done several naughty things. In fact, for me, my mom got so used to the school principal's office because she was literally there every day, and like every day or every second day she was in the principal's office because of the fact that I remember now my brother would tell the story with much aplomb because he was always ahead of me and people would always compare us because he was this bright kid who would always come like first and second, and Clive was always this brainy guy and I was this always this dreamer and all that kind of thing. So all the teachers would always tell me, "Why don't you look at Clyde? What are you doing with your life?" And so all that kind of thing. So I remember once they called him from his class, and he came down to my class. We're
Huh.
3 years apart. So,
Huh.
and this teacher said, just look at him. What is he doing? And apparently, now I don't remember this with so much clarity, but he tells me you were sitting in the dustbin in the classroom. And
Voluntarily.
why? Yeah, voluntarily. And why is he sitting in the dustbin? So he's just refusing to come out of the dustbin. No matter what we do, he's not coming out there. So you can
Acha.
explain to it. And then he convinced me to get out of the dustbin. But
Okay.
yeah, I remember that story. I remember that one
But
weird thing I did.
what was
I
why?
I I really don't know. I really don't know. Till this day, it's I don't know what I was thinking, but yeah, it was funny at the time.
Okay.
So he was
Okay.
really surprised to
So
come to class and see me sitting in the dustbin.
okay. Well, it's definitely a weird and random thing. So you definitely got that part. So I want to end. I love these random stories. However, we are getting to the end of our chai time with Bix, and I've been so happy. All of us have been so happy to just have this time to connect. I
Right,
want to
right.
ask one question, which I think no matter whether you consider yourself a creative person or not, or even if you're just, in terms of your own roles as a daughter, as a parent, as a teacher, as a like a professional in any field. I want to talk about comparison, and I wonder, do you struggle with it or do you not? Like, have you built up your own mental and sort of emotional, psychological fortitude that you don't compare yourself to anybody, or
Well,
I'm
well,
just
the truth is,
curious.
no, the truth is, I've actually always compared myself, and it's been something that has plagued me. And I've always, even to this
Mm,
day, find it hard to uh, think of my life and my journey as my own. And we can remind ourselves of that all the time, but it keeps coming back. At least to me, I keep saying, okay, when I'm. It also comes from setting boundaries for yourself and setting goals for yourself. So that can be a double-edged sword because you need to learn to go with the flow a little bit. And I don't think I'm very good at going with the flow. I'm really good at making plans for myself and then trying to execute them and being very ambitious towards making those plans happen. And when they don't happen, despite my best efforts, then I'm not good with dealing with the aftermath of not having achieved that success despite my best efforts. And I think that's something that I really need to grow in even now, even after all these years. I've been working for 20 years plus, and I don't think it ever gets easier. It never gets easier, but you have to keep trying. You have to keep thinking of yourself as your own musician, and nobody's going to have the same trajectory as you. You're going to have your own trajectory, and no matter what, no matter how much you try to compare yourself to another person, that person is not you, and you're gonna have your own journey, whether you like it or not. So you better get used to it, better come to terms with that.
that's cool. That's cool. I want to bring Rohit and Lydia back on the screen, and let's give Clinton Cerejo a round of
Hey,
applause.
thank you guys. You guys are awesome, and you
Yeah.
like going well handled. The back end was well handled.
Yes.
Rohit, by the way,
Yeah.
as he's back end today, but in the front end, what an incredible singer! And I
Thank
just
you.
I've always just loved whenever we've done stuff together. Yeah, just want to say that personally, you're just amazing.
Thank you. Appreciate that. From coming from you is like a voice of God.
Come on.
Also, have check out his beard right now.
Mm.
Oh, mine. No, it's Rohit's. Yeah, yeah. Rohit's is like epic, epic.
Yeah,
It's getting to the
yeah.
epic,
It's a
epic stage.
built-in mask.
Amazing. But thank you, Annette. And really,
Well,
I want to say that, like you were talking about Shore Police and how when we began Shore Police, yours was one of the first calls that came, and when you said, the music sounds so different. And that's when I said, yeah,
yeah.
because we are writing differently because Bianca's got her own style and very different from my own. So I want to tell you that uh, you're being this very gracious host and all right now, but you're such an amazing musician and you're somebody who the whole industry looks up to, whether you like it or not. I mean, you're this role model for so many people in India, America, and globally. Really, you have to
Aw,
really own that.
Clinton.
You really have to own that. It's amazing, and I'm a continual fan. Always will be.
Mutual. This is like ultimate mutual admiration society. We are so grateful, and also a huge thank you to everybody who joined us. Thank you for being here. Thank you for spending Saturday morning or Saturday evening or Saturday afternoon with us, depending on where in the world you are. And again, thank you for your time, Clinton. Thanks for keeping it
Oh,
real.
I mean,
You always you keep it real. And for more than, we've known each other for more than a decade and a half, I think now.
yeah, it's
You
been a
are
long time.
somebody we all look up to, and we can't wait to bring you back to Berkeley, because we got to do a lot more music. And please keep being your amazing, jugaad, random, crazy, insistent, powerful, witty, smart, culinary, food loving self. We really,
Thank
really
you.
love you.
Thank you, Anna.
Love you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much. Love you guys too. Thank you so much. This was awesome.
Bye, everybody. Thanks. And don't forget, chai or coffee, whatever you like to drink. Oh, we should take one screenshot like this before we go.
Yeah, yeah.
So, Ro, are you able to do a screenshot while you have your hand?
I can grab this from the thing and post, maybe.
Okay. Love everyone. Have a beautiful day.
Bye, guys. Thank you for watching.
Bye.